What is happening, my good people? Greetings. How are you? How's it going? How's everybody doing out there? What is the latest and greatest? Hope everybody's doing well, feeling fantastic and excellent spirits here on a Wednesday, February the 18th, year of our Lord 2026. As we try to get it posted up here, there we go. All right. We don't need any more technical difficulties. We don't need any interruptions. We just need it to be as seamless and as fruitful as it possibly can be, because as we get closer to the end of the month, and remember, this is a short month, 10 days from now, it'll be the 28th, and before you know it, it'll be March 1st. Oh, wait a minute. What is March 1st? That's right. The 8th anniversary of the podcast, which I'm going to talk more about next week. So you definitely got to come on back for next week's live stream, 12 noon Eastern time here, as you already know. And we'll get into that as to what will transpire, what will take place. It'll just be a celebration. Trying to get a couple of guests on and try to keep that low key, only because I didn't want to say, hey, I got this person coming on, or I may have someone that's going to join us at a particular time. All of the soup to nuts, everything that's going to be discussed. And let's see if I can bring up that graphic. Do I still have that here? Aha. Right here. So stay tuned for that. That'll be next week, as we will close out the month of February with the Wednesday live stream. That will be the last one, because March is right around the corner. And therefore, we could kind of see just a little bit. Now, granted, today's the 18th. We're what? Just about 2/3 into the winter. And granted that it's been relatively mild in the Northeast, so it hasn't been a situation where it's been frosty, it's been frigid like January was, and January was brutal. And today it's actually raining in New York City, to the point where the snow from 3.5 weeks ago is slowly but surely starting to melt away. And hopefully that means that the next month will melt away fast. Not that I'm trying to rush time, because as we all know, time flies by. It'll be summer. Baseball will be here. Next thing you know, the NBA and NHL playoffs will be here. The draft, the Kentucky Derby, the Indy 500. And the next thing you know, we're going to be crowning champions in both hockey and basketball, before baseball is the only sport that's around, and then it'll be training camp. And here I am already just whizzing time as if it's standing still, to where we're already in the middle of summer. Well, obviously we have plenty of time between now and then. That's why we have to savor this moment. I appreciate you all for stopping by, taking out precious time out of your day to listen to what it is I have to say about what goes on in sports. And with that being said, let's get right to it, people. Let's bring up the crawl on the bottom. That's also important for those who aren't aware. If this is your first time here, welcome aboard. And if this is your 3rd, 5th, 10th, however many times it's been that you've joined here on the live stream, welcome back. So with that being said, share your thoughts. I'm going to post them in the graphic there at the bottom of the screen. So please hang tight. I see some comments there. I'm sure a lot of hellos, a lot of greetings from my regulars, my usual suspects, my reals rockers, as I like to call them. I know it hasn't really stuck just yet, and for those who are watching a replay, leave a comment. Doesn't hurt. Whatever it is that's on your mind, whether you agree, disagree, you want to debate something, even though the live will be in the can and put to bed, but that doesn't mean that you cannot share your thoughts, opinions, critiques, even praise, whatever that may be. So be sure to do that, while I will put that on as well. Bastien, my man, welcome aboard. How you doing? Val, what is going on? What is happening? As well as Toppers, mild in Colorado. That's good to hear. I hope not a ton of snow, and if it is, it's probably starting to melt. Let's see. The Airwallex patches on it. Oh, look at that. All right, Val. I know you're always on top of the comments, which is great. And then you got Val like in the live already. Love it. Thank you, Val. Yes, absolutely. Hey to you. And Bio, my man, out west. Yes, I did see that. 2 international games. Mexico City, that's actually going to be a home game. The one in Australia is going to be on the road, which is weird. I know 49ers Rams. I know Bio and I talked about that, I believe here, or if not, offline. But the Mexico City game is actually going to be in December. So, and they'll be the home team. So you have to keep that in mind when the schedule's released. And that's what we have there as far as our comments go. Now let's get started. The NBA resumes tomorrow. The sprint to, think about it, it'll be exactly 2 months from, 2 months from today. Making sure I get that right. as to the NBA playoffs will commence. And to me, I love that weekend. I love both of those weekends of the opening round. And it used to coincide with the NFL draft. Now, the NFL draft will be the following week, where that Saturday, rounds 4 through 7, you'll have games 3 and 4, technically, or 4, you know, how they spread out that first round to where it seems like it's forever. But as we look at these next couple of months heading into the playoffs, and there's still a lot of basketball to be played. I talked about it a little bit when on the podcast Monday. If you didn't watch, I had my live podcast, which I will have another live podcast tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. I'll talk more about that on the back end, but you definitely want to stay tuned to that. And cheers to everybody. This is H2O, just water. But when we take a look at it's not even the second half, it's the final third. And I'll touch more on this tomorrow. I don't want to give too much away considering it tomorrow. I got to save some of that for the podcast. But how I look at it is the NBA, it's going to be fascinating to see how it's going to play out in both of these conferences, more so on the top half. I hate to say that the bottom rung doesn't count. I know the play-in scenario, anything could happen. We've seen Miami, what was it, in 2023, 3 years. Wow, it's already 3 years, where they're always in the play-in tournament, but they got themselves into the bulk of the playoffs to where they were an 8 seed. They beat the Bucks. I understand Giannis was hurt for 2.5 games. He missed the second half of game 1 in that series against the Heat, and then did not play in games 2 or 3, came back, and then the Heat beat them in 5 before going to an NBA final. And I understand that may be an exception. Very rare do you have a team that's coming out of the play-in scenario go deep. I know the Lakers in that same year, I believe as a 7 seed, they got to a conference final where they lost to the Denver Nuggets. But it's not as if I want to discount those teams. And I get it if you have a team like Golden State, for instance, Val's team, where with Steph Curry, and understand you're not going to have Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga's been shipped out, and not really much of a supporting cast there on that team. Draymond, he's only going to give you so much. Where even if they are in that play-in tournament, do I expect them to go deep? Do I expect them to, let's say, even if they make it as a 7 seed? Now, they have to be in the 7-8 bracket in order for them to do so, because even if they're the 8th seed and they go on the road to play whomever's the 7, they have to win that game in order for them to guarantee themselves a 7 seed in the Western Conference. But even if that's the case, as a 7 seed, you mean to tell me they're going to go to Denver and they're going to win 4 out of 7 there? I mean, that's going to be highly unlikely. Now, that's if Denver, of course, ends up at the 2 seed. We could have Houston there. OKC, I think they're going to be fine. They're going to have the 1 seed when it's all said and done, I think. Although it is the slimmest of margins. I believe it's 3 in a loss, but a 2-game lead as currently constituted. And I understand a lot could change. As a matter of fact, San Antonio has the 2 seed. I'm thinking Denver, for whatever the reason. San Antonio's the 2. But still, Golden State's going to go to San Antonio and win a best of 7, especially those first 2 games where they're going to need a split, because if they had any shot to even be in the series, let alone win, they're going to have to win, in my eyes, 2 games in San Antonio in order for them to win the series. And they're going to have to win one of those 2 to start off. And you know my theory, when you're a big-time underdog in any, whether it's the NBA, NFL, even Major League Baseball for that matter, if you're a heavy underdog, you're going to have to win a majority of the 7-game series. You're going to have to win the odd number game. So whether that means win game 1, win game 5, 7, even 3 for that matter. Because let's say if you win game 1 in San Antonio and then you lose game 2, all right, fine. Now it's 1-1. You got the home court going back to Golden State. Well, you're going to have to win that game 3 just to add pressure to the Spurs in order for them to have to play a pivotal game 4 for them. And let's just say, for argument's sake, you lose that game 3. All right, fine. It'd be great if they win it, because then no pressure will be on them going into game 4. But let's say they lose game 3. They happen to win game 4 by any means, Golden State, that is. And then now you got to win a game 5, because chances are you're probably going to lose that game. That means you have to win a game 6. And, oh, by the way, if you do win a game 6 and you push the Spurs to a game 7, you're going to have to win the game 7. That's why those odd number games for a big-time underdog are enormous. Because you're going to have to steal home court at some point, and chances are you're not going to do it in 5 and 7. You're going to have to do it more than likely in 1 and maybe 5. Because even if, let's say, they win game 1, and that means you have to win your home games 3, 4, and 6 in order to advance. What are the chances of that happening? Has it happened in the past? Well, yeah, you can look at what happened with Miami and Milwaukee there in 2023. But again, Giannis was out for 2.5 of those games, which meant the Heat did win game 1. And then they also won game 3 and game 4 in their building. And then just so happened to win game 5 as well, which was in Milwaukee, but they had a 3-1 series lead. So, and Milwaukee, I'll never forget, Mike Budenholzer, the coach, who got fired after that series. And maybe it was unfair to him at that point, considering they won a championship just 2 years prior to that. And I understand he had some terrible coaching in that series. Jimmy Butler going off for 56 in that game 4, not boxing out in the regulation on the inbounds pass. I mean, there was a ton of egregious errors on Budenholzer's part, but at the same time, the Bucks didn't have their best player. And you could have brought Budenholzer back regardless. I mean, considering that he did win a title. But with that being said, it's going to be hard for a team like that. And to go back to my original point, this is where I think the NBA, which has always been the case, is very top-heavy. Because as we look at it right now, and you could probably count on one hand, which is usually for every year, it's usually the same story. If you're going to look at who has the best shot to win a championship this year, I think maybe I'll count 6, but I think there's 5 bona fide teams that can win the whole thing. OKC, San Antonio, Denver. I won't say Houston just yet, although I think they could, but I don't know if I'm 100% confident in Houston at this moment. I love the coach, Ime Udoka. I know Kevin Durant, and he has a lot to answer to this postseason. And I'll get to that in a minute. Detroit, although I'm not just like so 100% confident, but you got to give them their respect. And the Knicks, those are your 5 teams. OKC, San Antonio, Denver, the Pistons, and the Knicks. Jay Rios, what about the Celtics? What about them? Right now, although they've overachieved big time this year, and I know that they've been riding on the shoulders of Jaylen Brown. I've gone back and forth with this with Brent. I don't know if he's in the room. I'll check the comments in a moment. Our guy north of the border, where I posted on the channel whether or not Cade Cunningham or Jaylen Brown, if you had to pick one of those two for MVP, who would it be? I understand it's probably going to go to either Nikola Jokic, maybe Luka, maybe. You want to throw in SGA, okay. But I thought Jaylen Brown was a bigger MVP candidate only because he has really gone above and beyond anybody could even think of, let alone imagine, as far as a guy who got the bag, who got the $60 million a year contract, who signed that 5 for $304 million, and he's been worth every penny. I mean, the guy has just been lights out between winning a finals MVP, winning a conference finals MVP. I understand the conference finals doesn't mean much. But then last year, he had a big year. Last year and this year, he's putting up even bigger numbers. And quite frankly, if you take him off a Celtic team, I mean, what do they have? And you can say the same for Cade Cunningham, but, I mean, the Pistons have been playing from in front all year. Nobody in their right frame of mind thought the Celtics were going to be, let alone a 2 seed and a 35-19 record, or 35-19. If you would have told me that at the beginning of the year, I thought the Celtics at worst would have been maybe 40-42, and their high water mark would probably be 45-37. And to me, that was a reach. I thought 42-44 wins max, and they're already at 35. And I understand the Pistons, Cade Cunningham, he is worthy of being an MVP, but I thought Jaylen Brown even more so because of what he's done this year. And when we talk about these teams that are looking to the big prize. And I know the Celtics will probably be in that conversation, but I just don't see it because they just live and die on the 3 too much. Now, Jason Tatum comes back. It's a big if. I don't know if he's going to be in the mix as far as being a part of this team. And I know they're going to proceed with caution. They're not going to rush into anything. I could see it was a thing where maybe they were on the fringe of the playoffs. But listen, they're looking long-term, I think, in my eyes. I don't think he's going to come back this year. Now, unless the doctors medically clear him and he feels not only just in his body, but his mind and spirit are in sync and he feels like he wants to come back, then you know what? Have at it. But I don't think the Celtics are in that discussion. So I think it's those 5 teams. And as far as Houston goes, to me, Kevin Durant, like I said, he has a lot to answer to. And I understand he's 37 years of age and he can still score among the best of them. You can't knock what he's done throughout the course of his career. He's an all-time great, etc. But when I say it's a lot to answer to, because ever since he left Golden State to go to Brooklyn and to team up with Kyrie, and I'm sure you heard the news, Kyrie is not going to play this year. I'm sure the ACL, maybe it's not 100%. Or listen, he's 33 years old. And I believe he'll be 34 next month. So why risk having him come back when you know that if he's gone for a full season and he'll come back 100% healthy next year, that he's going to give you max effort? Where here, Dallas is going nowhere. They're obviously fading fast out west. And for Kyrie to come back, maybe if they were going to be a fringe playoff team, all right. But they did the right thing. But with Durant going to Brooklyn, and I understand him stepping on the 3-point line there at the end of regulation in Game 7 against the Bucks before they lost in overtime. And that, as I mentioned earlier, was the same year that the Bucks went to an NBA final and won. That could have been the Brooklyn Nets when you think about it. But since that point, Durant's done nothing. I mean, he gets swept by the Celtics in the first round. After that, doesn't make the playoffs, goes to Phoenix, falls flat on his face. I don't have to just put it all on him. But for a guy who is an all-time great, argue top 15 all time, he's not in the top 10 in my eyes. And we could debate that, and I understand people are going to be like, oh, Jay Reels, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. But Durant's not a top 10 all time. You want to put him maybe at 15 or in the top 20? I'll say that without question. But those years in Golden State, after winning those 2 finals MVPs and the 2 rings, and you can't take that away from him, but what has he done outside of that? Especially in the postseason. As I like to say from time to time, in the immortal words of the great Walt Clyde Frazier, you make your name in the regular season and your fame in the postseason. And I understand he's got his fame in the postseason, but Golden State might as well have been 50 years ago. This is what have you done for me lately? And even though I'm sure the Laker fan, Bio can attest with LeBron, and granted, at least LeBron won a title there the year of the pandemic and the bubble. And people could say, oh, what has LeBron done as far as his Laker career goes in the last 4 or 5 years? They have an argument. But you know what? When you look at the entire body of work, Miami, Cleveland, he went back there and did something that no one has ever done. And certainly no team has ever done in the history of the NBA. Come down from a 3-1 series deficit to win an NBA Finals championship. So he always has that. But Durant, ever since he left Golden State to go to Brooklyn, and yes, I understand the big toe was on the line, and that could have been a title that certainly would have been maybe not revered the way a Knicks championship would in these parts, but you have to call it as you see it. Durant has done absolutely squat since he's left Golden State as far as him in the postseason. And I think this is a big stretch for him, not only here to stay healthy over these remaining 2 months, but also once he gets to the postseason and depending on where they're at in the standings. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. I believe they're 4th right now. And if they're 4th, that means they'll have right now, or of course this could change as we all know, but yes, they are 4th, and they would actually host the Lakers if the season ended today. And that would be a very big series for him to win. Now, I understand if they win that series to go up against OKC and he's unable to get out of that series, the defending champ, okay, fine. I understand this is all hypothetical conjecture because we're not at April 18th to where we know who their first round matchup is. I get that. But this is where Kevin Durant, and you want to call his legacy, you want to call his, even right now, his immediate future on this team. This is an important stretch. He may not look at it that way, but as fans, as us watching, and this is why we watch sports, and this is why I laugh, where a lot of the former players, even current players, more so the former players, that they look at us as fans, oh, we don't know what we're talking about, oh, they're quick to judge, oh, they're quick to critique, they never played the game, they don't know what it's like to be in a locker room, they don't know what it's like to be in a huddle, they don't know what it's like to be in a car. Nonsense. This is why we watch. And if Kevin Durant in a first-round series against the Lakers, and I'm sure he's going to put up 25 to 30 points a game, and he's going to put up good numbers, as you know, and let's just say one of those games, he shoots 8 for 19 in a pivotal game. Let's say game 5 in Houston, tied at 2. And he puts up for him a stinker. 8 for 19, has 23 points, however many rebounds, assists, and then plays in LA, and he may put up 32, but the Lakers win going away. How's it going to look on Kevin Durant? It's not going to look good. Because the reason why he was brought to Houston, similar to the reason why he was brought to Phoenix, and the same reason why he was brought to Brooklyn was to deliver them to the next round. And I'm sorry, game 6 on the road, 32 points, yeah, it may look nice. Now, it depends if he shoots, 11 for 23. It's not great. I understand it's not all about shooting percentage, but we're going to look at efficiency. We're going to look at Kevin Durant in the crux of the game, whether or not he delivered those points in crunch time when it really mattered. And then, if it's in a loss, no good, especially if he's not efficient. Now, if he puts up 40 and did anything and everything that he could possibly do to win the game and they lose by 2, all right, you got to tip your cap. But if the Lakers win, I don't know, 118-105, and Kevin Durant puts up 32, and the Lakers went going away from the midway point of the third quarter, the rest of the game, sorry. Is it all on Durant's shoulders? No. But he's the guy that's supposed to carry him. He's supposed to be that guy that, give me the ball, give me the rock. I'm taking us back to Houston for a game 7. You want to see that in your stars. You want to see that attitude. And I understand Kevin Durant is not that type of guy where he doesn't have that assassin's DNA. He may in his own right. I'm not trying to say he does not have it. Not everybody's built like MJ. Not everybody's built like Kobe. We understand. Not everybody's built like Bird, etc. But you want to see that in Kevin Durant. And I understand maybe in this case for Bio, I don't want to see Kevin Durant beat my team. I get that. 100%. But this is where we look at these players that are all-time great players in the sport. Why do you think I get on James Harden all the time? Everybody talks about his efficiency offensively with his usage rate and per possession and all this garbage, these analytics, which to me doesn't matter. What matters is when the money's on the line, does he deliver? And we all know what the answer is to that. So I don't care where James Harden ranks in the history of the NBA. All I know, eye test. Again, this is to Evan Turner in particular. Former Celtic, second-round pick overall, Ohio State, where he came out with a comment recently. I don't know how credible it is, but came out and says, oh, the fans, they don't know the game, blah, 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 so on and so forth. I'm like, what? You know my theory. Just because we never played the game, we never stepped foot on an NBA court or an NFL field or Major League Baseball diamond, etc. But if we are up to our eyeballs and immersed and absorb, consume sports like you guys and gals come every week, every Wednesday, and watch the podcast or whatever, and you follow it because you can't get enough of it. Sorry, we can critique it. Why? Because we watch. We know. And I know Brent got on my case. I want to bring him up again because I didn't watch the slam dunk competition over the weekend and the three-point shooting contest. And he goes, hey, you shouldn't go on speculation and blah, blah, blah. And I understand that's dangerous. But I'm not going to talk about something I don't know. And I understand I didn't watch, but I did watch the highlights. And I get it. Highlights aren't going to give you that same feel as if you watch it live. But come on. We know the slam dunk competition. And this is based on other people that I trust and people like, hey, what did you watch? What did you see? What did you think? So on and so forth. And they tell me, oh, you didn't miss anything. And absolutely right. But I know I digress. But my point of the matter is that we watch. And this is why, for someone like Kevin Durant, I'm not trying to pick on him. I'm not trying to single him out, what have you. But this is why I think that the Rockets, to me, are not a team that is going to be one of the 5 or even a 6 team that can win an NBA final. That's it. So, listen, post a comment. You know I'll put it up on screen if you disagree, etc. So that's the first part when we talk about the NBA resuming tomorrow, the final 2-month sprint. And that's more on the West. And the East, I mean, you're going to have New York, Detroit. I get it. Boston's there now because they're in second place, but I don't see them as a finals team. I don't. And for the reasons why, well, one of the reasons why they're going to shoot too many threes, they're going to, just like they shot themselves out of the Knicks series last year. And I go to my grave. I don't care what Knicks fan, they can laugh in my face. They can say, you're just a sore sport, or you're just making excuses. I'll say this to my sports grave, and maybe even to my own grave for that matter, that the Celtics outshot themselves in games 1 and 2 of that series, to where if they would have just made it combined in both games 3 3-pointers, they win the series in 5. It's not as if the Celtics got blown out in those games. It's not as if the Celtics got outplayed. To me, and watch those games, when you have 2 20-point leads in the second half, I understand the Knicks, give them some credit. But when you shoot yourself out of these games, and think about this, in one of those games, I believe it was game 1, in the third quarter alone, they took 20 shots. 19 of them were 3-pointers. And they were awful from 3. They shot 20% in game 1, and I believe in game 2 they shot a little bit better. 24%? Again, give me 3 3-pointers in both of those games and win the games. It's not as if the Knicks beat them by 10 when it was all said and done. I believe, game 1 they lost by 1, and game 2 they lost by a bucket. No, I think it was a 3. Because he had that inbounds pass, and Mikal Bridges stole. I think it was by 3. But again, slim as the margins. I don't see the Cavaliers. You know how I feel about James Harden. And I understand they're playing well. But James Harden, he could beat up on the Wizards. He could beat up on the Atlanta Hawks. He could beat up on all the bad teams he wants. The Pacers, the Nets. He could put up all the numbers. Again. And right now they're what? Actually a 4 seed. So they would host Toronto in the first round. And it would say something, I guess, if he were to lead the team past Toronto. But again, it's Toronto. Do I even need to break down all the games that James Harden were no-shows in big-time series? I don't want to bore you to tears with that. But so to me, it's a 3-team horse in the East, although I think it's eventually going to be 2. And I'm not trying to say that to give a reverse jinx on the Celtics, like say, oh, they have no shot. Or no, do they have a shot to get to a final? They do. I don't think they're going to. I think it's either New York or Detroit. And interesting enough, tomorrow night, Detroit plays at New York. I get it. You're not going to see Isaiah Stewart or Jalen Duren in the game. So that's going to be obviously a big-time advantage for the Knicks. And we saw that the Pistons whacked the Knicks twice in Detroit this year. But with Cleveland, I'll believe it when I see it. And I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be Pistons, Knicks. And unfortunately, the East, at least in the West, you have a little bit more intrigue. You could throw the Lakers in there too, because the Lakers could get to a conference final. Can they get to an NBA final? I wouldn't be surprised. But when I mentioned 5 teams could win the whole thing, I'm not saying 5 teams could get to a final. The 5 teams that can win the whole thing. And that's why I picked those 5 teams. Now, do I think the Knicks are going to win the NBA finals? No. Do I think the Pistons are going to win the NBA final? I'd still say no. I would think it's either going to be Oklahoma City or San Antonio, and maybe Denver too. I can't discount that. But I think it's OKC or San Antonio. And I got news for you people. When we look at the league in the next 5-6 years, get used to seeing the Thunder and the Spurs a lot. because those are teams that are young. Those are teams that are on the come up. I mean, you can't even say the Thunder are on the come up because they won a title last year. And the West right now, I get it that Denver, Jokic, listen, he's on the other side of the mountain. He's maybe, let's say if this was the top of the mountain, he's starting to walk down this side. I mean, he's played in the league, 11 years? And he's got a lot of miles. And he's a big man. And, you can't expect him to be a walking triple-double for the next 4 years this year moving forward. There's going to be a little bit of a decline. And listen, I don't know what you're going to say about Minnesota. I understand that they're dangerous. They made it to back-to-back conference finals. And you look at some of the other teams there. I mean, right, we talk about Houston. I get it, you have Durant. You got some young players on the team, but still, I don't know how they're going to play out moving forward, let's say after this year. To me, the West, it's going to be a two-team horse. I know you have this latest rumor in bio I'd love to get your thoughts on with the rumors about the Lakers and Giannis offseason. Now, I could see that being a destination, but what are the Lakers going to give up? What, Austin Reeves? He's going to be in that deal. Reeves, or you're going to get Dalton Connect? I mean, and number one picks from now until the end of time? And those number one picks, I might add, would be one this year. The one in 2029, I believe, is going to Dallas for the just awful Luka trade for the Mavericks, of course. And then you're going to have to start giving up number one picks in, who knows, 2035, for all I know. And Giannis and Luka, that'd be a dangerous pairing. And with the Lakers, you can't put anything past them. Now, I don't think it's going to be this secretive, middle of the night type of trade this coming off season to where Giannis is going to get dealt to the Lakers. Now, I'm sure they could probably have to get a third team involved, because if I'm Milwaukee, I'm saying Austin Reeves got to be in the deal, number one. Number two, yeah, I want whatever your first-round picks. I believe the Lakers have a first-round pick this year. Yeah, I don't think they traded it away. But wait a minute. Yeah, because they didn't trade in the Dallas deal. I think it was 29. I'd say, yeah, I'd want your next four picks. And I understand it's going to have to be every other year. You can't do it consecutively. But, yeah, I'm fleecing them. I mean, come on, you're getting Giannis. And I understand when you look at that mountain again, he's right up here, starting to walk down. He's, 32 years of age, and he's got a lot of miles, and he's been in the league as long as Jokic. I believe when he's drafted 2013, Jokic was 14, so he has 12 years in the league. And, or maybe 13 and Jokic 12. But still, that guy is a monster. And you don't think he's going to be reinvigorated if he gets traded to the Lakers with Luka there? I mean, you got to be off your rocker if you're not thinking that. So, and I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, that's just one of the recent reports that I've seen, where it's quite possible that the Lakers could be a destination for Giannis. And I'm sure the same can be said in New York. Maybe even Miami for that matter. But Miami doesn't have much to give up. San Antonio is going to be a team. But if I'm the Spurs, I wouldn't do that. If I'm the Spurs, I would treat this similar to OKC, where, let's say, 2 years ago when OKC had the 1 seed in the West, and a lot of people thought, wow, here was a team nobody saw coming as far as being an elite team. In that year, what was it, 2023-24. And they got the 1 seed. Now they lost to Dallas in the conference semifinals. And I gave them a pass, where if you recall last year in doing these live streams, especially as a storyline, I said, oh, they got to get to a final this year. Cute story. Wow, they got to a 1 seed. All right, they lost in the second round. But now, they won 68 games. They got to get to a final and win the whole thing. And as it was, they did that. So now, to me, this is San Antonio. This is going to be similar to what we've seen 2 years ago with OKC. 2 seed. They're not going to be a 1 seed. They could get a 1 seed. Now, if they get a 1 seed, there's going to be a lot of pressure on them to win. But let's just say they get a 2 seed and they lose in the conference semis. All right, I guess you can live with it because they played Denver if the season ended today. And if it went chalk to that point and they lose to Denver in the conference semis, all right, fine. But then next year, you know the expectation is going to be through the roof. And I think if they brought in Giannis, would that upset the apple cart? Maybe not, but you have so many good young players on that team now that you would build off of this year. Let's say if you lost in a conference semi, or even let's say they go to a conference final and play OKC and lose in a hard-fought 6 or 7 game series. You're running that same team back. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, buts, maybes about it because the experience that they would have gained in this journey, number one. Number two, knowing that this would be Victor Wembanyama's stage, his coming out party. And if you recall how I said back in October that Victor Wembanyama was, to me, in my eyes, the most important player in the NBA this year because we wanted to see the Spurs get to a playoff and let's see what he could do in the playoffs because let's face it, everybody's going to be waiting to see what he's going to do now that the bar has been raised. Their team is in second place. They could actually flirt with a 1 seed in a conference that obviously is loaded. And for them to be able to get to a point where they could be a top 1 or 2 seed in the West, there are going to be expectations, just like OKC 2 years ago. So this isn't going to be a cute story. This isn't a Cinderella where, oh, wow, look at this team. They've come out of nowhere, and here they are in a position to where they can make a run. And no, this isn't the Mets a few years ago when they got into the playoffs in the last day of the regular season. They upset the Milwaukee Brewers. They also upset the Phillies and then played the Dodgers in an NLCS to where it was a magic carpet ride before it came crashing down there against the Dodgers in 6. That was unexpected. No, there'll be expectations for the Spurs. And Wembanyama is going to be the spotlight. And there's your little tease right now for my NBA storylines when we get to the postseason because I'm sorry, they may not be number 1, but they're going to be, if not 2, in that top 3 of storylines going into the playoffs because everybody's going to want to see what not only the Spurs, but what Victor Wembanyama is going to do in that postseason. It'll be his first ever postseason, number 1. Number 2, people are going to think OKC and San Antonio for a conference final. They're going to want to see it. And we saw how competitive they played against one another in this regular season. So let's go. This NBA second half starts tomorrow. And I'll get into more of the story. I don't want to say storylines, but more into my crystal ball as to how I foresee these next 2 months. Yeah, you probably get a little bit of what I said here today, tomorrow as well. But I didn't want to go through like all the teams or have a complete breakdown or whatever. To me, I wanted to start off by saying who I thought were the 5 teams that could win an NBA final. And I may piggyback on that a little bit. But yeah, I can give you more angles tomorrow when it comes to the East with those teams that are at the top. I understand you know my objective because you're going to say, well, Jay Reels, if we know that if you think the Celtics aren't going to make it, well, yeah, you don't need to bring it up tomorrow. But, right, understood. But at the same time, we don't know the Tatum factor, if he is going to play and what that's going to mean for the Celtics moving forward, or what we could see in this quote-unquote second half, how certain things could unfold in certain ways. Not that I'm going to predict it, or I'm going to try to predict it, but not that it's going to happen. And that's where, to me, having that final third of the season laid out as we embark on this 2-month stretch will be more discussed tomorrow. But I wanted to give you a big picture when I look at what could happen as we get into this final 24, 25 games, however many games it's going to be, and see where we could go from that point backwards, as opposed to tomorrow where I'll talk about where we're at moving forward to the end of the season as opposed to the postseason. All right, let's get to the comments because I'm curious to see what you guys and gals have written here. And I appreciate all that have hopped on board. You already know. Oh, I already see Brent's name in here, so that's a good thing. I love it. Brent, I hope you're still here because Brent and I, we've been going at it. Of course, playful, fun, and I appreciate it because he's also one thing about Brent, and I've missed him here, but if you go back and check on some of those comments, and I understand I've been delayed with these comments. I get it. I got a lot going on here. People trying to, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Again, as I talked about with the March 1st live stream for the anniversary, I'm trying to get some guests. I'm trying to do some things. Also trying to hustle. I got a couple of other, what's the word I'm looking for? A couple of other partnerships that I haven't posted just yet, but I'm trying to get sponsorships, people. I'm trying to get that one Dino sponsor to be like, all right, Jay Reels, here's X amount of dollars. You're good for the remainder of the year. That's what I'm trying to do here, people. So I appreciate everybody's patience. I appreciate everybody who's commented on my shorts, on a lot of the stuff. And even though Brent came out and said, I'll get to the comments in a second. Even I know Brent came out and said, hey, I'm not used to you posting these shorts, these clips here. I'm just adding another element for those who are unaware of the live stream to post that, hey, yeah, the reason why you're seeing these clips is because it's been taken from whether it's the Wednesday live stream or even the live podcast that I'm putting out now. So that's the reason why I'm doing that. All right, here we go. What do we have? Oh, Val, is 2 international games good for the 49ers? I'd say no to 1 because they got to fly to Australia. And I get it that they're in first class and they charter and they got all the amenities on the flight, food, reclining seats, Wi-Fi. But yeah, that takes a toll, I think. And they're going to Mexico for the other one. So in Mexico, that's not going to be as bad. But is it good? They got to deal with it. But I'm sure there's a lot of the, if you take a poll of players, I'm sure they don't like it. I would think. That's just me. Can we do away with the playing games? Toppers? It's funny because I'm a traditionalist when it comes to that. And at first, when they first had it, what was that? This 2021 was the first time? Was it right after the, no, I think it was before the pandemic. It was right before the pandemic. Maybe it was right after. Jeez, right now I'm drawing blanks. And it was one of those things where, it was just too gimmicky. Like, these teams are going to get knocked out. Like, why even bother? Because whomever's going to be the 8 seed, then they're going to play OKC and they're going to get slaughtered. As we saw at Miami, as I detailed earlier, I understand you get that freak occurrence, and I understand, no pun intended, Giannis was out, Greek freak, which really propelled Miami to win that series. But I've warmed up to it. And even the Lakers, they made it to a conference final, as I also mentioned. Yeah, it's here to stay. I know it's the same teams that you see all the time, especially in the East. I mean, how many times do you see the Hawks, the Bulls, the Miami Heat? I mean, it's the same teams every year. And, yeah, I know. I've warmed up to it, though. I got to admit. I've warmed up to it. I don't mind it. But it's one of those things where it adds another layer to teams that – I mean, look at Golden State. I know they're 8th right now, but let's say if they fell to 9th. And if they didn't have the play-in tournament, you have at least Steph Curry for one game. And if they're an 8 seed now, and let's say, again, I understand it's all hypothetical, but if the season ended today, Golden State would have 2 shots to get into the postseason. And you'd watch those games. Absolutely. You know, it's not a thing where you would look at and say, so Warriors, they're not going to make it. No, you'd watch. You'd say, oh, no. And especially if they're in the 9-10 bracket, because if they're in the 9-10 seed, they have 2 shots to get in and really 1 shot, because if they lose that game, they're done. So you really want to see whether or not that they would advance to play for the 8th seed in the next game. So in that regard, that's why I do like it. But more often than not, you're going to have those dreadful teams, like I said, in the East. And let me see in the West real quick. Right now you have Phoenix, Golden State. I mean, that's an intriguing 7-8 matchup. I mean, that's a game, put it this way. Orlando, Miami, we've seen it a million times. And Atlanta and Charlotte, listen, I'd root for Charlotte. I wouldn't want to see the Hawks. So Charlotte, I would like to see. Now, are they going to go far? Let's say if Charlotte is the 9-10, they win that game, and let's say they beat Orlando or Miami for that 8th seed. Are they going to beat the Pistons? Probably not. But think about this. It would add a layer of intrigue to that first round series based on what we saw, what was it, 10, 11 days ago when they got into that brawl with Moussa Diabate and Jalen Duren, who's one of the reasons why he's not playing in the game tomorrow night, because he's serving that suspension. And you also have Miles Bridges, you have Isaiah Stewart. So you'd have a little intrigue to see whether or not that series would be combustible. Now, does Charlotte have a snowball chance in hell to win that series? No. But at least you have something. And out west, you have Golden State Phoenix, Portland and the Clippers. All right, I guess you'd want to say the Clippers only because they do have Kawhi and they do have star power there. Where Portland, all right, I get it, people. If you're a dyno All-NBA fan, you know who's on the team. The Shaden Sharps of the world, the Scoot Hendersons. I get that. But to the average fan, Portland, they're going to think like, wait a minute, well, Dame Lillard too, but I don't know if he's going to play, if he's going to come back this year. But my point is that people are going to think Dame Lillard from 4 or 5 years ago. They're not going to think of Dame Lillard now. And I understand he just won a 3-point contest, so people are thinking, oh, wait, is he back? Is he going to play? And that will add a little bit of intrigue, but I've warmed up to the playing tournament, Toppers. So, and it's coming from a guy who, Mr. Traditional. So, and there he is. 32 degrees, Southeast Ontario, heat wave. That is warm. Hello to Val, Bio, everyone I haven't met yet. Yes, Brent in the house. Good to see Brent back. Oh, Rich Bisaccia is stepping down. He's a very good special teams guy, too. If you remember, he was the one that was the interim coach in Vegas, and I thought he should have got the job, which was a joke. And they gave it to, didn't they give it to, I think it was Antonio Pierce they gave it to. So look at that. Now, I think the Steelers already have this. Danny Smith, I know, where did he go to? I forgot where Danny Smith went to. But they already hired a special teams guy, but I would have taken him. So here we go. Francois, 3 weeks. Val, love the updates. Keep it coming. Yes. Brent in the house. Warriors injury prone like Steph said. Yeah, Porzingis. And he's another guy. You forgot that he's on the team. Porzingis. And he would be a big-time contributor if he's healthy. But, again, big if. Healthy. Giants doing well in spring training? Well, they haven't played yet, but I understand. I guess everybody's kumbaya. Way to go. Bob, Brent, what's going on? Celtics having a San Francisco 49ers season. Everybody thought they'd be bad. No, they have. And you got Celtics, Lakers Sunday, 6:30 on NBC. So we got that to go back and forth with Bio. And let me see, Sunday. Yeah, I'll be home. Saturday, I'll be out Saturday, but Sunday I'll be home. Once a Ram, always a Ram. Congrats on a great career, Robert Woods. Yes, he did. It was actually a Steeler. He was in there on the practice squad for a little bit. Brent, the Shamrocks are more of a team led by Brown for sure, but a supporting cast has really molded. No, listen, and they've gotten great contributions. Now, I know they traded, who was actually playing pretty well, Anthony Simons. Now, you bring in Nikola Vucevic, so we'll see how he blends in, which I'm sure will blend in nicely. And when you look at the Hugo Gonzalez's of the world and even a guy like Neemias Queta, but yeah, they've overachieved, and you got to give Joe Mazzulla a lot of credit. They've really have done well. And Jaylen Brown, I mean, I can't even speak to how well he's played, especially a guy who, when he signed that contract after the 22-23 year and got paid that $304 million contract. And listen, we know that. Is he worth that much money? He is not. That's not to say he's a bum. That's not to say that's just the way the market and the way the system is, that they're going to pay your big players that kind of money. But is he SGA? No. Is he Luka? No. Is he Nikola Jokic? No. I mean, he's not a top 5 NBA player. But I get it. It's the market. It's the way it's built right now. I mean, would you take Jaylen Brown or Anthony Edwards right now? You probably have to say Jaylen Brown because he's a better two-way player. But that guy's earned every penny since he's gotten that contract. And how many players in any sport that you could say about a player like Jaylen Brown that has earned it? Not many. Usually when people get the bag, that's it. All right, I got my money. Let's kick back. Or you'll see flashes or you'll see moments. Oh, here come the injuries. Wow. He shot 3 for 15, 17 points in Detroit. Or they matched up against OKC and fouled out in the game with 18 points. And listen, I'm not trying to make Jaylen Brown out to be the second coming of add in any player. But, I mean, the guy's been phenomenal. Watching all the jumps and you bio. I know, and that's another thing. Brent and I gone back and forth with the whole dead zone, and now that he's here, I could listen. It's dead when you look at the landscape of what we're accustomed to. We're accustomed, and listen, sports there's always going to be something. I get it. Listen, Kyrie, knowing that he's out for the rest of the year, it's part of the news cycle. I'm referring to competition because you had no NBA games over the last week. And I understand the All-Star game. All right. I'll even give you that. But that's an exhibition. That's not must-see TV. It's not like, I got to watch. Tomorrow night, the NBA resumes. I guess the game's on Prime. Pistons, Knicks, I'm going to be dialed into that. I'm going to see. Now, I understand no Isaiah Stewart, no Jalen Duren, but I want to see how the Knicks respond. So, of course, and if the Knicks are up 71-49 at halftime, I'll be like, all right, I could get off this, and I'll tune in back and forth to see how the game's going. But that's what I'm referring to by the dead zone because, all right, you have the Olympics, but I'm not wrapped up in the Olympics like that. And congrats to Michaela Schifrin, who got a gold for the giant slalom. Kudos to her. But as I said to Brent in the comments earlier today, it's a niche. The Olympics are a niche event. And I kind of hate to say it like this, but it's a fact. When you get to March Madness, maybe not even then, a week after the Olympics, after the closing ceremonies, are you going to know who won the gold in snowboarding? Are you going to know who won? Now, I know bobsled was, what's her name? Elena Taylor. And I know I just butchered her name. I don't think her name is Elena. What's her name? She's the oldest woman to win the bobsled. And the oldest person, I believe, to win a gold medal. Which, kudos. I mean, the utmost applause for her. Let me see if I can look that up real quick. But, this is big news. Sidney Crosby. I didn't know that. Did you see this, people? Sidney Crosby leaves Olympic quarterfinal with injury. Return uncertain. And I believe they were winning 1-0 against Czechia. And I'm going to get to the hockey in a minute. But I mean, nobody's gonna care about the Olympics after Sunday night. I'm sorry. I mean, it's listen. I don't, and I get it. You can say that for all the other sports. You can say, "Oh, Jay Reels, nobody's caring about Indiana Hoosier football after they won." But you know what? When you think college football, you're gonna think, "Oh, all right, great, yeah, they won." Or you're gonna think, "Oh, yeah, Seattle, they won the Super Bowl," and how they got there. You're gonna start replaying that all in your head. With the Olympics, whether it's the figure skating, maybe figure skating obviously is a big event. But whether it's the snowboarding, whether it's even the curling for that matter, I know they had controversy. I mean, nobody's going to care who won the gold or who won silver or bronze. I'm sorry. At least that's how I look at it. And that's why we're in this dead zone because there's nothing else going on. Baseball, I understand you got Aaron Judge saying some comments the other day and Steve Cohen, which I'll get to with, no captain for the Mets. All right, that's part of the news cycle, so I understand that it's not dead. But I'm talking about games watched because that's what we watch. We don't watch for the scuttlebutt. We don't watch for things that are said. Yeah, it's part of it. But at the same time, it's the only reason why we watch the sports because of the events, the games. And the Olympics, I'm sorry, as I said before and I'll say again, I'm not drawn. It's not It's not like, oh, wait, what's happening? I got to watch this tonight, 8 o'clock. And trust me, I'll get to the hockey because that's one thing I'm going to unpack. And I'm going to make a bold statement in regards to that. And no, it's not clickbait, rage bait, but it's actually, I think it's legit. But let me get back to the comments. So that's why I love Brent. We go back and forth. And that's the whole point of this, people. His whole point was to go back and forth and unpack and discuss, et cetera. So, J-Rod, I know Fishing Angels got to be around. Everybody saying hello. Yes. Always try to keep up with sports news. Good for you, Val. That's why you're a kook like us. That's why you're here. All right, all hellos. All right, here we go. Brent, a healthy OKC. It's at the top, hands down. Detroit, possibly Cleveland now, not hiding the playoffs. Julius Randle, Minnesota could be a dark horse. All right, so you like Cleveland then, Brent? I don't believe in it. Again, I'll see you when I believe. I'll believe it when I see it. I trust Donovan Mitchell more than I trust James Harden. I mean, that's, nice, as you should. As you should. Oh, man. How is that weather out there? Still storming, huh, Bio? Temp drop, freezing rain, all call for. Oof. And Bio happened USA, Michigan State last night. Yeah, Mick Cronin. Did you see that? That was crazy. He threw out one of his own players, and I didn't hear what he said in the postgame because I think what he said was actually pretty inflammatory. But yeah, that was yeah. I listen, I would have done the same thing. I would have taken that kid out and be like, you know what? Cool off. Ryan Hall, weather guy online, he was talking about the huge storm we can come to California. Been 50 here in Michigan for a few days raining. I know you said the other day it was 55, right, Jay? Rocking that Little Caesars. Other teams. Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how he's going to play after this. Yep, Michigan. Yeah, beat Purdue last night. And then JT Toppin, how about him last night? Texas Tech gets hurt with about 6 minutes to go in the game. And this is after they won in Arizona on Sunday. All right, let's see. Yeah, I know. That's going to be a big game against Duke. That's definitely on my radar. Now, I'm going to be out. That game's in prime time, right? Yeah, I'll be out around that time. But, yeah, I'll definitely monitor it where I'm at. He's a beast. Oh, you thought you still got 4 games, Brent? I was going to go even harsher than that. How about 10? And I even said this to Brent. This is why Brent and I, if we had our own show, oh, forget about it. It would be, and the good thing, it'd be natural, which I love. Because, some of these other debate shows, do I even need to go there? We all know that it's manufactured and it's choreographed. And I understand it has to be some sort of outline on a day in, day out basis. But, yeah, I said 10 games. You come off the bench like that, similar to hockey when you come off the bench? 10 games. Julius Randle has a playoff history, but it looks like he's found his. Oh, no, you're talking about James Harden. Has a playoff history, but he looks like he found his mate in D. Mitchell. Oh, Brent. And I know you're a kook sports fan. I know. But now you're going to make me go through the laundry list of games. And when did you post that comment? Gee, that was a half hour ago. And now I got to scroll to the bottom. Brent, you still here? I hope you're still here. Oh, you're still here, Brent. Good. Hey, I see Ray Condi in here. Ray, what's up? And the novice, what's going on? I hope you're still here. I hope you guys are still here. Hang on a second. Let me get to this. Fuqua Johnson. Brent, I understand you're going to tell me that this is a different year. You can't go based on the past. You can't look at what could possibly happen ahead. We don't have the crystal ball. I get it. But you're not a very good sports fan. You're an excellent sports fan. James Harden I would never, ever trust in a big spot. And now I'm going to have to go through the games. I won't even go to OKC. The year when they went to the finals, he was a six-man, too young. I'll even give him a pass. He was awful in that NBA Finals series. Now, I understand you could probably go back to the previous series and what he did, but that finals against the Heat, he was terrible. Let's go Houston. Let's go in 2015. Can we start there? Where in Game 6 against the Clippers in LA, he got pulled. He got benched for Josh Smith and Corey Brewer, who bailed him out and won the game. And they actually won the series back in Houston. And the next round in 2015, that was when they played the Clippers. I believe that was the Clippers that year. Right, because that was a conference final. That was when the Dubs won their first championship under Curry, Klay Thompson, etc. And obviously did nothing in that series. 2016 against San Antonio. And how San Antonio in a Game 6 at home, well, they blew him out. And I believe he went 2 for whatever. I won't say 2 for 11. He had 6 points in the game. For their season. No show. Rockets against Golden State, those 2 back-to-back years. Especially when Chris Paul was there. When he went 0 for 100 from 3 in Game 7. Philadelphia. Game 6 against the Celtics when they could have put them to rest. This was 2023. What happened? Spit the bit. And then in Game 7, what happened there? Goes to Boston, where, all right, let's see if we can save their season. Nope. Another one of those 3 for 8 performances. I think he had 11 assists in the game, but he had like 9 points. And Jason Tatum scored 51. Can we go now to last year? Oh, wait. 2 years ago against Dallas, where I believe he had a very good Game 4. He and Paul George had a good Game 4 where they tied the series against Dallas, only to lose at home in Game 5. And I believe they lost by 30 in that game. Nada, nothing, zilch, and then lost a Game 6 in Dallas. Last year, against Denver, where was this man? Game 6, Game 7. This guy, I mean, come on, Brent. He's had running mates forever. Kawhi Leonard, Chris Paul. We could go through all the list. Joel Embiid. I mean, And that's why if we were back and forth, I could see it just face to face or just like in a setting like this. He's done nothing. Brent, Pistons are the real bad boys 3.0. They embrace it. The league knows it. Yeah. Fuqua, you got to announce yourself here to say who you are. Yeah, Thunder's, yeah, you definitely do. Without question, you're right about the Thunder having the best defenders. That was a huge statement game for Detroit and is put the league on notice. Which game was that? Did I miss something here? Let's go back. Hold on. All right, Fuqua, what do you got? Mets is going to be an emergency room team. They bought players that are always injured. Who are you keeping your eyes on this spring training? Well, I'll tell you this. The guys I'm keeping, well, Luis Robert, number one, because I'm sure that's one of the players that you're probably referring to. To me, it's their pitchers. Kodai, we know that you step on his toe, he's out for half the year. Sean Manaea, is he back from that shoulder injury from last year? I'm also going to look at Marcus Semien. He's had nagging injuries, but he's another guy. Who knows? Geez, I mean, just thinking about the Mets right now. And I'm going to talk about them in a little bit, so hang tight with that, Fuqua. Looks like it'd be a repeat of your Trolley Dodgers and the Birds of Hogtown again. Maybe Detroit with their pitching staff. Yeah, we'll see. I hope Detroit has a good year. 3P for Dodgers is definitely loading. If I had a vote, I believe you're correct. Be a fun ride. Yes, it is. Good show. Ray, I hope you're still here, man. Welcome. I appreciate you hopping on board. The Novice, playing games, has extra TV games. So I absolutely 100% The Novice. Without question. Grayson Allen's a mission from God. And if healthy, they can win a series. I know Grayson Allen, I just don't like that he's dirty, though. Playing games that seems early interesting. Yep. That's true. And I just broke it down, as you saw earlier, how when you look at the bottom rung of those brackets, I mean, Golden State, Phoenix, and you want to throw in the Clippers, Portland. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with Dame if he's going to come back. I would think it's unlikely, but my thing with international games, especially Australia. Yeah, I don't think a lot of players, I mean, come on, they got to fly to Australia. Very good. There you go, Val. Excellent. Now, who knows what the injury is? Because you know, with the NHL, a lower body injury, upper body. Yeah, I got to see. I'm sure Canada, they were winning 1-0. Did they win that game? Oh, it's actually tied at 3. Ooh. I'm going to keep an eye on that. That game's going to go into overtime. Switzerland's up 2-0 on Finland. Wow. That could put the rest of my next comment, which I'm going to get to momentarily. Hey, RH. Latest Bugs Bunny drop? I know that's probably a comment towards, the most streamed artist on Spotify. Nah, it's all good. But RH, I appreciate you stopping by. I'm sure you're out of here. Your boy Macklin. Nick Cronin. Oh, look at his bio. For trying to block a shot. Yeah, that was the case, but wasn't that? Did he get called for? No, not flagrant. He got called for a foul on that, but. And look, you know better than anybody. He lost the team. That's not good. Interesting. I saw the block, but I thought there was, Just because there's no professional scores to report doesn't mean there's no competition. Yeah, but again, Brent, I understand that, but it's the Olympics. I'm not wrapped up in it. And yes, I understand there may be several other people out there. I may be, out of the 10 people, I may be 1 or 2 that, do I thumb my nose at the Olympics? I have no investment. I have nothing. To me, it just doesn't do anything. Now, I'd be invested come Sunday, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But I know. Maybe I'm just a curmudgeon, I guess. Mick Cronin has to go. Unfortunately, sign a 5-year contract, which means they have to pay him off. How many years left does he have on that contract there, Bio? He's played well this year. Yes, it has. And that's the thing. Even if Crosby's out, it's not as if they need him to win. He'll help. But if that was Connor McDavid or Nate McKinnon or Cale Makar, that would really be a story. If you're not a fan of Olympics, you don't understand the competition of the games. It is at times must-see TV. If I'm not a fan of Olympics, you don't understand. No, listen, I understand the competition as a lifelong sports fan, but again, and the same could be said for the Summer Olympics too. See, to me, what drives the Olympics, and I get it that you had it this year with Ilya Malinin, Michaela Schifrin, Lindsey Vonn, who, as we saw what happened with her. I know I'm probably missing a couple others off the top of my head. To me, it's about star power. That's what's going to attract people to watch. For me, I didn't know about Malinin until my wife told me about Ilya Malinin. And we saw what happened with him. I talked about that on Monday's podcast. Lindsey Vonn, we know Lindsey Vonn is, she's a household name. Michaela Schifrin, yeah, she's household too. But star power is what's going to bring and And I get it that the ratings are going to be great. Why? Because there's nothing else to watch. There's nothing else going up against it. And why is that? Because it is a dead zone. It is a sports dead zone right now. And as I said, I do believe I said this on Monday. When you have people in more of the Summer Olympics, when you have Usain Bolt, when you have years past, Carl Lewis, Edwin Moses, and look at this, Carl Lewis, Edwin Moses, Mary Decker Slaney, Mary Lou Retton, that was all in the same Olympic, 84. And that's not even including the 84 team that had Jordan, that Bobby Knight coached, if you're into the basketball at that point. Listen, that's what's going to bring eyeballs to this. Michael Johnson, 96 Olympics in Atlanta. That's what's going to bring people to watch. And to me, I didn't find it intriguing. I did not. And I understand it doesn't mean that there's no competition. It doesn't mean that nobody's watching. It doesn't mean whatever. But it just doesn't do anything for me. Now, I understand. Now, people are going to say, well, Jay Reels, if it was Arizona and Texas, the World Series a few years ago, you watched that, right? I said, yeah, but I have an investment in that. I have an investment in baseball. I don't have an investment in the skiing. And then people could say, all right, well, what about Usain Bolt? You're not a track and field guy. I understand that, but that guy's larger than life. That guy is like, no, he is must-see TV. When you have a guy of that magnitude, you have to watch. And what does he do? The guy wins. And that's why even in the Olympics in 84, and I was 15, you know about Carl Lewis, you know about Edwin Moses, you know about Mary Decker Slaney, you know about Mary Lou Retton. Or even 96, I believe, with Kerry Strug. Or last year, or 2 years ago, Simone Biles. I mean, who wasn't watching the gymnastics? You already knew. All right, when is Simone Biles? Because that is must-see TV. To me, this Olympic, I'm sorry, Ilya Malinin, I just found out about him. I got to watch. Part of the allure of the Olympics is having those stars that play on, and it doesn't matter if it's U.S. or not. Usain Bolt's from Jamaica. If it was somebody from other parts of the world that was a swimmer, a skier, whatever, and they had or have recognition, I will watch that because I want to see for myself. Again, I know the Chloe Kims of the world, and I hope I'm not butchering anybody's name. All right, I get that, but am I going to watch snowboarding? Snowboarding's not going to do it for me. Even Shaun White, who is obviously Mr. Snowboarder, and he's won 1 million golds in the past, I'm sure, but he's not moving the needle in my eyes. He's just not. Bodie Miller a few years ago with downhill skiing. And Bodie Miller, let's face it, he didn't live up to his name, his billing in the Olympics. He did not. I understand he went through some personal tragedy. I get that. But even still, Bodie Miller was not another one. I got to watch this event because of Bodie Miller. I didn't. That's just me. Case closed. And I understand people can say, well, Jay Reels, I don't know. Listen, I'd love to hear the comments. Brent, I'm sure you got plenty of them. I'd love to hear Bios comments. Everybody, Jay, you know what, you're right. This guy's going to move the needle. That guy's going to move the needle. I understand it's all based on our gut, our feeling, our opinion. But, again, yeah, Mahomes, yeah, I saw that. Now, you got to wonder about Tyreek Hill, if he's going to come back. At what cost? That's the big thing. Yeah, Celtics Warriors. You and I there, Val, tomorrow night. All right, here we go. For me, I've only watched some Olympic hockey. So, Bio, you obviously none of these events or these athletes have gotten to the point where it's like, oh, wait, they're on? I got to watch this. Which also proves my point. Oh, look at this. The beard is smiling. When did you last see him do that? I'll believe it when I see it. Let me tell you something. I love it. This is going to be good. We got receipts. We both have receipts here, Brent, on this day. And it's not even a thing. If he spits the bit, I'm not going to come on here and say, I told you so. And I promise you that. I'll talk about, did anybody see James Harden last night? Game 6 up in Toronto, down 3-2. And Toronto won a 114-97 rocking chair type game. All right, let's look at the stats of James Harden. 31 minutes, 3 for 15, 11 points, 9 dimes, 6 rebounds, lose by 17. And I'm just going to move on to the next thing. I won't say I told you. I promise. I'm saying this now. I won't say I told you so. I won't say ha-ha, Brand. Nope. He now has a mission. And listen, I know he's not watching, but if he is watching, I hope this adds fuel to the fire because we want to see great players perform at the highest level. Not just in games 1, not just in games 4. Money on the line. Money on the line. Why do you think Tiger Woods, and wait, I don't even want to go there with players of that ilk. Why do you think players who win are revered forever? Because they deliver in big spots. Even Kawhi, for that matter. And I understand people could say, well, he's won 2 titles, blah, blah, whatever. But for the Raptor fan, the 1 year that they won with him, that shot that he made, Game 7 against Philly, that shot will be remembered forever. More so because they won a title that year. Because if they didn't win a title, yeah, it'll be remembered, but it was just a Game 7, 100 bounces, and it went through the hoop. And people also forget, too, the next series they played the Bucks, Giannis, they were down 2-0 in that series against Milwaukee, going to Toronto. And what happened? They won the next 4. And I understand no KD, which was enormous. And Klay Thompson tore his knee in Game 6, fighting for their lives. And remember, Toronto won all 3 games at Oracle in that final, which that kind of gets lost. No offense there, Val. But that's where he's going to be remembered forever. And I understand that since then, he's been injured. He's been in and out of the lineup. In the bubble, they blew a 3-1 lead against Denver. And yeah, since that time, 2019, he's fallen on hard times. But still, you're going to look at what he did in San Antonio in 2014. You're going to look at what he did in Toronto in 2019. You're going to look at some of the efforts that he's had, not so much with the Clippers because he's been hurt a lot, especially in the postseason. But still, that guy's won. What does James Harden have to this point in his career? He's going to the Hall of Fame, and he's well-deserved to be a Hall of Famer. And you know me with the Hall of Fame. I'm a small room guy. But he's deserving of it, without question. I'm not going to knock him for that. But when you're going to look at him as far as his postseason career and what he's done, he's come up, like you see in the NBA with the players. He's come up small. And Brent, you could debate it. You could argue it. You could fight it. But one thing you can't do is deny it. Can't. We see it. We watch it. The back of his playoff basketball card says it. And if anybody here wants to dispute that, they can. I'll pull up numbers. I just mentioned all these games that he's spit the bid in. Oh, you like the Summer Olympics, Val? JJJ, a history, yes. Mr. Harden, Max Strus. Max Strus is now his glue. No, listen, Max Strus, I'm not even going to, come on. You can't put them in the same sentence. But yeah, it is. But this is what we go by. We go by the history, Brent, no? I mean, it accounts for something. Just like Michael Jordan. Why is he revered? Kobe, why is he revered? Yeah, people could say, oh, look, Kobe couldn't win without Shaq. And then what happened? He went through that stretch from 2004 to 2009 without winning. And Shaq won in Miami the year he was traded down there, which made it even worse for Kobe because it's like, oh, he left to go to Miami. Granted, that was more Dwayne Wade. I get it. But people are going to look at that. Well, Kobe can't win without Shaq. Kobe can't win without Shaq. Oh, look at him chucking up shots here. being a bastard to his teammates, so on and so forth. Oh, wait, Gasol comes in. What happens? They get waxed by the Celtics. Oh, Kobe still can't win. Look at it. He still can't win without Shaq. What happens? The next year, they beat Orlando. Oh, it was Orlando. They were up 3-1, blah, blah, blah. Courtney Lee. I know it was a game 2, I think it was, when they had a shot to win in LA. No, they won. They split those first 2 games in LA, but they had a good shot. I think they had a good shot to go up 2-0 in that series, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, then the following year, they play the Celtics again, and now the pressure was on Kobe to win. It's like, all right, now it's Lakers Celtics. If you really want to etch your name, and listen, Kobe obviously already etched his name in LA lore, but knowing that they lost to the Celtics in 08, had another crack at him to win, down 3-2, winning game 6 and game 7, despite him shooting 6 for 24 in game 7, having an awful game, but he had 15 rebounds and certainly played his ass off, despite him shooting 25% in the game. Guess what? He's remembered forever. Can't say that about James Harden. Cannot. And this is it right here. The novice says the best. 100%. And of course, Brent, as you know, this is the banter back and forth. And I love it that it's spirited. I understand it's just for me, but as I like to say, what we talk about, what you share, your thoughts, and I respect that. I'm not saying, oh, you're nuts, you're crazy. Oh, come on, Brent. Stop drinking the James Harden Kool-Aid. No. That's how you feel. That's fine. 100%. So this is never, ever personal. It'll never be personal. But I will say, this is business. And I stand on that business 10 toes strong, especially when it comes to James Harden. And again, we could debate it. We could argue it. We could unpack it. We could do everything. But one thing that you can't deny is that he is not delivered in big spots. Baseball guaranteed contracts keep players in the league. Yeah, and I know I got to get to these couple of things. There's only a couple others that I want to get to. I love the comments. I love the discussion here. NBC does a good job showcasing individual athletes during broadcasts. No, they do that, but of course, that's what they have to do. Understood. And listen, if there was an athlete that was an underdog that, oh, wow, this person, let's say, I don't know, during their training of the 4 years had suffered a setback or worse, suffered a loss in their life. And now here they are on the stage. That's why the woman who was 41 that won the bobsled. I mean, that's a wonderful story. But, and I'm sure, listen, it's going to be remembered forever from that regard. But once the Olympics comes and goes, is anybody thinking about bobsled? No. Is anybody thinking about snowboarding? Is anybody thinking about skiing? Is anybody thinking about, no. Oh, look at that. All right, Arizona Cardinals. All right, I'm going to catch up on these comments at the bottom of the hour, and I'm going to zoom through the couple of things that I have here. Yeah, Seahawks have, and I think that's a good, you know what? I give credit. It's easy to say, why are you going to sell the team now? You just won a Super Bowl. You guys got a window, blah, blah. And Kenneth Walker's not going to be a franchise player, if you saw that. And they've lost their coordinators. Who knows? It could be the same situation like the Eagles 2 years ago, where the Seahawks next year could be the Eagles, where they lose their coordinators, and now you got to wonder what's going to happen with their team next year. But why not? Get out when they're getting as good. This is the highest that they're going to sell this franchise for, and they're probably going to be worth at least $6 billion. So, and who knows if they own the stadium too? If they own that, it's probably going to be worth more. Not probably, it will be worth more. Oh, bio, is that right? Yikes. CBC goes on overdrive a lot. No, that's good. As they're good, because they're trying to sell these athletes to the people who are watching so they can come back to watch. So if that means whatever round of hockey or curling or whatever, oh, so-and-so, this is what they've done over the last 4 years to train for this moment. No, I get that. 4 years left. Yeah, if they buy him out, that's not going to happen. Maybe you had 2 years left, but 4, And I'm sure he's getting paid a pretty penny. Michael, yes, he was. I'll never forget, 96, he was no joke. 100%. You know what's so funny, Bio? I didn't feel that from the beginning because it was like, but now as we're building up to the week, and I knew in my heart of hearts that it was going to be U.S.-Canada, but I don't know. Is it, and Canada won in overtime. Oh, look at that. I'm sure somebody probably posted in the room, maybe Val did. Canada survived. Who scored the goal? Mitch Marner. And Mitch Marner, he's almost like I don't want to say he's the James Harden of hockey, but he's a guy that's also invisible in the postseason. And that isn't a big goal. And Macklin Celebrini, he is just look at this guy. Celebrini has 5 goals, 4 assists in this competition. Listen, I'm going to get to that in a minute. I have to get, before I go, at 1:30, bottom of the hour, I'm going to get to that game. Now, I know women's are going to play Canada-U.S. tomorrow. And who knows? I know U.S. has been perfect so far. But wait, let me get back to, hold on. Where is comments? Comments. Oh, here we go. History is water under the bridge. Know it, understand it, but no, it can change. That's why we watch. I understand that. But if you don't know James Harden's DNA by now, why would it change? We could go through a laundry list of players throughout the history of any of these sports. And yes, they have the talent. Yes, they have the skill. Yes, they have the ability. But if they don't have the, as I like to say, testicular fortitude, Brent, they are what they are. I could go through a million of these. Let's just talk NBA for a hot minute. You remember Derek Coleman? I hate to pick on this guy. And I've said this in the past. Derek Coleman, in my eyes, prior to Tim Duncan, I think would have been, if not number one, behind Karl Malone, maybe even ahead of Karl Malone all time as far as the greatest power forward in the history of the league. Again, prior to Tim Duncan, and may have been the best power forward ever. And here's the reason why, or reasons why. Not only was he a great low block player, he had handle at 6'10", could shoot the three, break guys off the dribble, dunk on people. Ask Shaq, who he got embarrassed and got dunked on where he couldn't believe it. Derek Coleman. That guy, and at Syracuse, he was no joke. That guy, if he had his head on straight, he would have been an all-time great. There's no ifs, ands, buts, maybes about it. But he wasn't. When his head was on straight, the guy was unstoppable, but that's the point. Floated in and out of these games, didn't care, and that's why he's not an all-time great. And unless you can say, oh, wait, now you're going to compare Derek Coleman to James Harden? Well, Coleman, at least, he had a decorated career in college. And I believe Derek Coleman, wasn't Derek Coleman number 1 drafted? What was the? I know Kenny Anderson was drafted number 2 the year he came out. I believe he was number 1 overall, wasn't he? Bingo. 1990, number 1 overall pick. Come on, man. This guy, I look at it was rookie of the year. He was a 2-time All-NBA player, 3rd team. He should have been, this guy should have been all-world. But it's Big East player of the year, 3-time first team All Big East. The guy was a monster player. And like I said, he would have been an all-time great power forward. But he wasn't. That's just one guy. Kenny Anderson's another one. He was drafted number 2 overall, one of the great point guards that have ever come out of New York City. And what did he amount to? was an average player. He made an all-star team at one point, but there's a million of these guys, Brent. And listen, these are guys that had been much ballyhooed coming into the NBA. But let me ask you this. Here's a great question. And he's an all-time great, and he's a Hall of Famer just like James Harden would. If you had to pick one of these two guys for, so I'll just say, just for the sake of this discussion, and Bio, anybody else in the room, answer this question. I know it's just a handful of you, but answer this question. For your life, for one game, Game 7, who would you want on your team? James Harden or Allen Iverson? And Allen Iverson's won an MVP just like James Harden. And Harden's been to a final just like Iverson. But who would you have on your team right now? Game 7. You have to pick one of these two guys. Who are you picking? I'm picking Allen Iverson. And I understand I have a bias towards Iverson, but even if I didn't, Iverson, I know, is going to give you max effort. I don't think James Harden is. This isn't about Harden. It's about helping D. Mitchell to the top. All right, we're going to see. I'll stop. Reed, what's happening? Hole and Dan Sock. I don't know if you guys are still here. I love it, Brent. I love it. Yep, Coleman. Wow, exactly. Only me will bring that up, though. You know why I bring that up, Reed? Is because I'm not a prisoner of the moment. And there's no recency bias when it comes to sports, because there's a lot of people out there that look at sports that started either in the year 2010 or the year 2000. So I want to take it back a little bit, because when it comes to this and what I do, no bones about it. I mean what I say what I mean. And yeah, anytime, anywhere with anyone to talk sports. And that's why I love Brent. That's why I love his contributions and all that. Because to me, sports, when we talk about history and we talk about debating, whether recency or not, these are reference points that we could use. And this is why I love guys like Brent, because we could banter back and forth. We could talk about, and I'm sure Brady's probably frustrated throwing his arms like, here he goes with history again. Here goes Jay Reels on the soapbox. And I understand that, yeah, I've probably spent way too much time I should have on Harden. But this is the beauty of it. You can't do this with anything else. You can't do this with movies. You know, you want to compare Brad Pitt to Al Pacino? I mean, I guess you could, but it doesn't have the same flair. And the same for music or art or whatever. Sports, you could do that. And maybe you could do that with music or whatever. But even then, who's better, Kanye or there or whatever. Right, I get that. But to me, sports is timeless. Because, right, we can try to compare teams and eras, which to me, it becomes wasteful or whatever. But that's a part of the fun. But at the same time, I'm not here just to talk about James Harden compared to this guy. James Harden compared. No. We're talking about James Harden in this year. And yeah, I hope, listen, let him prove me wrong. But all I know is that I've watched many a player performance by James Harden, and the end result is the end result. Let's see it get changed. All right, I'll shut up with that. Sean Kemp over Derek Coleman. I'd have to say Sean Kemp's had a better career than Derek Coleman. Yeah, if I were to choose one or two guys, I'd choose Kemp. Now, Kemp, I mean, he was Giannis before Giannis, let's face it. Now, he didn't have Giannis's body. But coming down the lane, driving on you, forget about it. He'd dunk on anybody. And he was electric in that regard. Not a great outside shooter. The three-point wasn't as prevalent as it is today. Had a decent mid-range. Wasn't great, but was good. But down the lane, and he was a twig. I mean, he's not, he wasn't 6'8", 240. Now, I understand later on is in Cleveland where he blew up and he, let himself go. Different story. But I'd probably have to say Kemp over Derek Coleman. Yeah, Kemp was fierce. He was no joke. Oh, yeah, I remember that too, Brent. Welcome back, Val. All right, let me get to some of these other things so I can land this plane nicely. All right, Brent. Here we go. Could we possibly see the best sports moment in the making? Whew. Thankfully, Canada held up their end of the bargain. Now, they still got to go to a semifinal first before you get to a final. But I think USA-Canada, now that would be must-see TV. Based on what we've seen in the past when it comes to the Olympics. And if you want to even throw in the Four Nations face-off last year, where Canada won in overtime there on the goal by who else? Connor McDavid. Yeah, that could be the best sports moment of the year. I know I didn't put that in the graphic, but because when you look back last year, and to me, there were three. And I think Fuqua, I don't know if you're still with us. I know he threw in a few others, but to me, I looked at the Game 7 Dodgers-Blue Jays, Rory winning the Masters, and Alcaraz Sinner at the French. This, I believe, could be one of those moments because U.S. trying to get over the hump, try to get the gold medal, beat Canada in the process. I know Brent is going to be ready to go. And Brent, let me ask you this real quick. Because Canada has beaten the U.S. in the Olympics, 2010, Sidney Crosby in Vancouver, 2014 as well, especially with the pro players there. You mean to tell me that you're not going to go based on history? And I get it. Anything can happen come Sunday, but you won't be confident to think that Canada's going to win this game? Or are you going to look at this matchup and think, oh, I don't think we're going to win this game? I'm sure there's a part of you that thinks that, all right, well, anything can happen. I get it. Based on this discussion today, which is fine. Totally understood. But I'm sure there's got to be a little extra oomph thinking that, oh, I want to play U.S. again because I think we could beat them again. We got better players. We got a better goalie, etc. I'm sure you got to think that. And I got news for you. If U.S. plays Canada, all the pressure is going to be on U.S. to win that game. It's not going to be on Canada. Why would it be on Canada? They've beaten them already. I understand, but that was 2010. I get it. But you think Canada's not going to go into that game knowing that, and I looked at their roster is way better, even without Crosby. And it's not to knock the U.S. roster by any means. And U.S. has played well here, as we know. But now, deep end of the pool, the old words, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And that's not to say they can't, but I would think Canada is going to be not a heavy favorite, but I think they're going to be a solid favorite to win that game on Sunday. So would I be surprised if U.S. wins? I wouldn't. I'd be shocked if they won. I'd be really surprised if they won, let's say, 5-2. That I'd be like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. I could see a 4-3, 3-2 type game. But, and I'm not a betting man, but if I were to bet who's going to win between Canada and U.S., oh, please, all my shekels are going to the Maple Leaf. How could it not? But I hope it's U.S. and Canada, and I'll be up to watch that. Will I be up at 8 o'clock? Maybe not. I'll try to get up at 8 to watch that because I want to talk about that. And I'm definitely not going to not talk about it come Monday on the podcast. So, yeah, and I should be there for every face-off, every play, etc. So, we shall see. That's going to be a fascinating game, no matter how you slice it. Now, I'm going to go to the next thing before I get to your comments. This is a story that over the course of the next, I'll say 5 weeks, because they're going to have to appoint somebody as to being the head of the players union between now and I'm not even going to say opening day. I think it would be almost an atrocity. I understand that's strong. With the development, Tony Clark having to resign. Now, I know I'm not going to unpack about the stuff that he's done out of the office, where similar to the former VP of the union or executive of the union for the NFL, what was it, Lloyd Howell's his name, where he's car service to strip joints in Miami and running up bills left and right, putting it on the company card. Something similar with Tony Clark, where now you also hear about this inappropriate relationship he had with his brother's wife. I mean, now I know that she was hired by baseball because she's a lawyer, hired by them to work with Tony Clark as far as whatever negotiations or agreements, etc. But yeah, I mean, talk about a terrible optic. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, he's pulling an Ime Udoka. And worse, with his brother's wife. If alleged. I mean, I don't know. We don't know all the details. But this is what we get right now on the surface. But baseball's going to have to find a guy. I mean, who's going to be the one that's going to be up next? Is it going to be Bruce Meyer, who is the litigator? He's the attorney who worked hand in hand with Tony Clark. I don't know if they're going to be ready to appoint him as the next guy. I'm sure they're going to want to have a former player to work side by side with Meyer in order for them to be lockstep with this process. As we all know, the CBA is going to expire December 1st. If there have been discussions between Tony Clark and Rob Manfred, well, now you could throw those in the garbage. And I think they need to hire somebody, maybe not tomorrow, but I would think before the baseball season, which is going to start, get ready, people, 5 weeks from today. March 25th, out in Oracle Park between the Yankees and Giants. So I would think once you get into March, maybe before the World Baseball Classic, I'm sure they're feverishly trying to see who they could get on board right now. One guy off the top of my head, and listen, this is a guess, and I don't know what part he has. I'm sure he has a job in Major League Baseball, but I think the one guy who would be really good and a tremendous spokesperson for the Players Union, and I don't know anything, people. I don't. And I haven't even read anything about rumors, rumblings, whatever, but I think the one guy who I think would be fantastic to be the head of the Players is Curtis Granderson. That guy is in the know. That guy, I know he works as an analyst there with TBS in the postseason and stuff, but I believe he has a position in Major League Baseball. I don't know exactly what it is right now. I'd have to look it up. But if I'm whomever throughout Major League Baseball and he's a recent player, Tony Clark, I understand he retired when? Late 2000s, before the 2010s. And Tony Clark, I remember Tony Clark. He played for the Mets. He was in the Mets, in the Yankees, Arizona. I know, been around a long time. But Granderson, he's a more recent guy, a guy that people know, and people who know baseball knew who Tony Clark was. But I think that Granderson, would be great for that. Does he want it? Is he a guy that's looking to fill that position? Who knows? But we'll see how that all unfolds in the next few weeks. But this is very important because we know the players are going to stand pat. They don't want a salary cap, and they're going to have that guy, whomever it may be. Hey, you know how we feel. We know where we stand, etc. And if it is Granderson, of course he's going to make sure that that is going to be the case. But right now, this hire, whomever it is going to be, is going to have to not kowtow to the pressures of Rob Manfred and the owners, because you already know that word's going to get thrown around starting when that person's going to be anointed as the player rep or the executive director, and how he's going to be in that standoff is going to be vital, because they don't want somebody who's going to be weak or somebody that's just going to genuflect in front of the owners to be like, all right, well, this is what they want, guys. I mean, no, because they're going to get him out with the quickness. So to me, that's important. And I'm only going to spend 2 seconds on this for the Met fan out there, and this is for you, Fuqua. Fuqua, you haven't announced yourself in the room yet, right? If you're still here with us. Is this a big deal? And I don't like what Steve Cohen said because he was talking out of both sides of his mouth, saying that, as long as I'm the owner, there's not going to be a captain. But he did say, and let me see if I can pull up his quote. But he did come out to say, as long as the players, they'll handle it themselves, blah, blah, blah. Well, what are you saying? So if they handle it as a quiet, on the low captain, it's okay? Steve Cohen. Yeah, to me, like what he said didn't make any sense. Here we go. And these are quotes. As long as I'm owning the team, there will never be a team captain. That was my decision. My view is the locker room is unique. Let the locker room sort it out year in, year out. What do you mean what does that mean? Let the locker room sort out what? Who the captain's going to be? But if you're saying under your watch there's no captain, but if the locker room sorts it out, it's all right. I just hated that comment. To me, just say, as long as I'm here, there's no captain. You could say, all right, the locker room's unique. Players from different walks of life, egos, etc. But we're all a team. That's it. There's not one guy that's going to lead this team. Case closed. Don't let the locker room sort it out. To me, anyway. And I'll end it on a fun one. Today's Ash Wednesday. It's not about, I understand. There's people, I don't want to get into like religion or anything like that, whether you practice it or not. But I understand that there are some people, I went to Catholic school growing up, so is anybody giving up anything for land? If you're not, that's fine. Not to say you have to, not to say you're gonna, whatever. I only bring this up because this would almost be like a pseudo April Fool's. Could you imagine me coming on here and saying, all right, guys, today's Ash Wednesday. It's Lent. You give up something, a vice, something that you know that you have to, whether smoking, you don't want to drink for the next 40 some odd days. You want to stay away from sweets. You want to stay away from gambling. You want to stay away from other things, whatever it may be, fine. Well, yeah, it's not April 1st. But imagine if I came on here and said, you know what, guys, I'll see you after Easter Sunday. I'm giving up sports for Lent. I can't give up sports for 5 minutes. I mean, after this, yeah, I'll eat something. All right, that may be more than 5 minutes, but you get my point. But after that, I'm going to have to see what's happening. U.S. plays Sweden at 3:10. So imagine if I gave that up now. That's like me saying, all right, I'll see you guys in 40 days. I'd probably look like who knows what? I'd probably look like a pipe cleaner. I'll be like, I don't want to tease. I was going to say something that wasn't going to be too nice, but yeah, I'll have withdrawals. Let's just put it that way. I'll be like an addict, all right, without trying to target a particular thing. I'm trying to be PC here a little bit. An addict, and I'm getting my withdrawals where I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? I got to see. Oh, there's no way. There's no way I could give up sports for Lent. I'd rather give up sweets, fried food, which I've done in the past, cigarettes, which I, of course, see if anybody's paying attention. I don't smoke, so it's easy for me to give that up for Lent. You give up cursing, but then again, you have to have somebody with you all the time. You got to hold yourself accountable. So even if you're driving by yourself in a car and somebody cuts you off and you yell out whatever 4-letter word you want to use, then you got to say to yourself, well, nobody heard me say it, so I guess I'm good. No. But that's why I bring it up. It's not, I don't want to make it about to be religion, whatever. If you practice, you don't practice, whatever. Maybe there's people that do give up stuff for Lent. Great. But I only bring it up because I tie it in with what I just said about sports. Imagine me giving this up. I couldn't. There's no way. I would give up. Yeah, I've given up fried food. I've given up sweets. I've done drinking. I've done that. I'm trying to think of what else would really hurt if I gave up. Watching TV. I don't watch TV, so I mean, of course, if it's on in the background, my wife, that means I'm watching something. Social media. That'd be tough because of what I do. But it's not like social media and everybody gets locked in and, whatever. But yeah, I mean, how else am I going to put forth a podcast, whatever, if I'm not putting it on social media? So I can't give that up. Yeah, it's tough. I'd have to really think hard, like, oh, what is this? That's something that I know would be, that. Because again, sweets, and you could target that. To me, I do across the board. I'm not saying I'm giving up cookies for Lent, but I could have cake, ice cream. No. Do the whole thing. Just like people give up meat for Lent. All right. But are you giving up red meat? Or are you giving up all meat? And it's fine if you just give up red meat. I can dig that. But that's like me with the sweets. No, I'm doing everything. I got to do it all. I don't want it to be a thing where it's like, ooh, I want a Snickers. Oh, but that's sweets. I can't have it. Oh, no. Or I could have it because I said I'm not going to have cookies. No, I'm doing the whole thing. So I'd be curious to know what you guys and gals have to say about that. As I get set to land this plane. What is this here? Yeah, because, there it is. He did it. I didn't think he was going to do it, but he did it. I'll get to that comment in a second there. All right, here we go. Let me go back to these comments. 6'10", 240. Well, you know what? It's funny. Maybe that, early in his career, was he that? I know he was tall, but I just picture him being lean. Yeah, because I don't picture him being that big. You know what? I take your word for it. Yeah, because you know what? He probably blew up to like 270, 280. All right, Reed, so I'll give you that. Because when I see Shawn Kemp, especially in those early Sonic days, I'm talking about 90 to 94. Because when I think of Shawn Kemp, I think of him just lean, jumping out of the gym. I think of him like 6'10", 220. And I'm sure he grew into his body when he got to the mid-90s, especially when he played on that Sonic team in 96 when they faced off against the Bulls. So I'll give you that. 6'10", 240 out of high school. Yeah, Kemp was no joke. Especially in the lane, underneath the basket. What's this? I did, Brent. Oh, yeah, I guess the Michael Johnson. Yeah. Or maybe not even that one. No, I hear you, Reed. I appreciate you checking me up on that. I do. Calvin Biggio, 20 years Hall of Fame career. Don't get me started on Craig Biggio and a Hall of Fame career, but I'll leave that for another time. Not a fan. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Brent, I'm with you on that 100%. I agree. 1,000%. Seahawks could sell $10 billion. Now, if the Seahawks are worth $10 billion, what are the Cowboys worth? I mean, with the World Juniors in hockey. Yes. Yep. I remember that. I remember that brawl in 87. Remember that? Was between the Canadians and the Russians, I think it was. Brendan Shanahan. And yeah, that was crazy. They took off the lights. Well, if that was going to help. Tony Clark is only the first to lose their job. Yeah, I could see that. Sorry about 50 minutes. What a wild circus. Here we go, Fuqua. That is Tatsuya. Dad shifts, everyday Mets, Metropolitan. Yep. Jonathan, Rhoda, Penmore, Cowboy. I think there's another one, right? Or does that cover it all? That may cover it all. I feel like I'm missing one. Tatsuya, Dad ships, everyday Mets, Metropolitan. Jonathan, Rhoda, Penmore, Cowboy. I feel like there's one more. Was this the Sharks and Nick Leddy? Yeah, Leddy was a former Islander. Blackhawk, too. I'll join the Jane Real Show on Twitch. I appreciate that, Fuqua. I know. I haven't really paid attention to Twitch. I know there could be people on for all I know. They're posting comments, but they would pop up here if anything. And what's this last one? Max Crozier will be out 10 weeks following surgery. Oh, wow. All right. Saw it on X. I appreciate that, Val. I appreciate your participation. I appreciate everybody's participation here. And Reed, yeah, if I got, let me see. Let me look at Sean Kemp real quick. Yeah, because he blew up big time when he was on the Cavs. And I know he was that big. I mean, I knew he was tall. I knew he was, what did I say? 6'9". I said 6'9", 6'10". Yeah, I just, because you look at his body, he just doesn't look, again, I think of those early Sonic days, even in those mid-90s teams. Yeah, to me, I don't look at him as thin as a rail. I'm not saying he was 6'10", 190. You know, he's not Chet Holmgren, and I understand Holmgren's taller. But, yeah, no, he is, for whatever reason, I said, what, 210, 220? Yeah, he does. To me, he doesn't, for some reason, yeah, I just didn't see him as, I don't recall him as 240, but yeah, I'll definitely take your word for that. Yeah, I'm just looking at his numbers real quick. He was, yeah, right now has it listed at 280. Yeah, let me look at some of these pictures of him. Yeah, the Rain Man. Yeah, we know that. They don't have many pictures of him on here. And the funny thing about Kemp, he was 3-time All-NBA second team. Was never first team All-NBA. I understand you're going up against guys in that era. Karl Malone. Yeah, that was before Duncan. Hold on. Karl Malone, Charles Barkley. Yeah, who are going to be first team or even second team. Yeah, because he got 3 second team All-NBA. I got to pull that up to see who won. Well, Karl Malone was first team. And second, then Barkley. Barkley probably played. I understand Barkley had a power forward mentality, but interesting stuff, Reed. I like what you contributed there. I appreciate that. And Brent, thank you for stopping by. Of course, as always, stay classy. You too. I appreciate your contribution, Brent. Thank you so much. And everybody's contribution for that matter, for Bio, for J-Rod. No Fishing Angels today. Shout out to her. Got to give her a shout. Fuqua wrote a pen mark. Unbelievable. I love all the aliases. Yes, Bio. You too, my man. Great sports day to you as I get ready to sign off and land this plane. Because as you do know, or if you do or do not know, this is what I love to do, people. Talking sports is birth. Bring the pain on everything that's happening in the world of sports. I know I didn't cover a lot today. I know I spent a lot of time with the James Harden deal. So my apologies with that. But tomorrow, podcast pregame, 9:45 a.m., followed by the live podcast, 11 a.m. You already know the deal. I'll take all your comments after I go through my stream of consciousness with the podcast. So definitely hop on board. I appreciate you guys for doing that. Yes, he did, Val. He got released. And he will be a free agent. But as always, people, much appreciate your participation. Much appreciate you carving out precious time out of your day to listen to what it is I have to say about what goes on in the wonderful world of sports. That's why I do this for you guys. And obviously, in turn, you share your time, energy, effort with me. Obviously, tomorrow, you know the times. And as always, from the South Bronx, South Beach, South Central, South Pacific, South Bronx, South Beach, South Central, South Pacific, and all points beyond. For some reason, I thought I messed that up. Peace, love, and God bless everybody. Enjoy the rest of your hump day. Hopefully, I'll see you guys and gals tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel, 9:45 a.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Eastern for the podcast. And until then, everybody, on the flip, baby.